Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happy Musician Vlogcast. I'm Candace, your happy musician, and this is where happy musicians come to talk. So I hope that you gain inspiration and you gain a lot of confidence out of watching the lovely vlogcast that I am sharing with you. My guest today is Claire Jones. She is a phenomenal harpist, a lovely, kind-hearted woman who is a hard worker, extremely talented. I've had the pleasure of meeting her briefly, although unforgettable. And so I just want to say thank you, Claire, for being here. I'm so
Thank you for
happy.
having me. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you for asking me.
I just want everyone to know we're talking via across the pond here. So where are you at again, Claire?
I'm in West Wales in the
West
UK.
Wales.
So beautiful part of the world. Definitely people should visit if we can get past COVID, of course. But it's a beautiful place to visit. Very tranquil, very scenic.
I have to make sure actually no, it is on my list. I think before I even met you, it was on my list because I think someone from Green Spring Music was telling me about it. It was like so gorgeous. I was like, I have to go. So
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we did actually bring over about 100 US citizens and their families, harpists who came to perform here. So I organised a tour for them. And they definitely are desperate to come back. I know that. So yeah, absolutely, it should be on your bucket list.
it's on my bucket list, and it's kind of high. So I'm feeling good. We'll see. Italy, I think, was right above, but I don't know. I might have to do some reprioritizing. But what have you been up to during this crazy time? Your husband, I had him on my podcast, Chris Marshall, but you two work very closely together musically, and you're always doing some wonderful things. So what are you doing right now?
Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, we've been using this time to try to do positive, hopefully inspirational work for others, and trying to also take this time to kind of reevaluate everything that we're doing and what we're going to be doing in future. So I'm actually, obviously, apart from not being able to see many people or actually converse with many people, apart from virtually, of course, I've actually really enjoyed this time creatively because it gives you time for clarity, really, to kind of really observe what you're doing. And so, I've been kind of trying to keep up my practice and keep in the zone of playing, keeping motivated, doing various things to keep myself up with that. Also looking after my health a little bit, because that's really, really important. In my particular case, I've had to do that for a long time, just because of my story. I've had to sort of just make sure that my well-being, my body is functioning fine. So lots of Pilates, yoga, lots of sessions with my PT, who is brilliant at strengthening me and conditioning me. And from a work point of view, I've been really working hard on developing a couple of online projects which are going to be out later this year, but also working with Chris, my husband, as my duet partner. So he's a percussionist as well as a composer. And so we have our duet Deos. So we've been exploring our sound and looking forward to doing some recording next year. And also then I've been teaching and mentoring lots of harpists of every level. I kind of go from the stages of, teenager all the way through to young professional. And I'm about to do some masterclasses next week for a conservatoire here in the UK. I examine for them as well. So I'm having the pleasure of kind of seeing every different kind of angle, really, of music education, but also from a performance perspective, trying to plan my own sort of career going forward from here, really.
Wow. Okay, you're definitely busy. But no, how cool is that though to have that performance perspective in the educational arena? I mean, it's pretty
I
specific.
really feel that mentoring young people and people who are in the profession as well, or maybe starting out in the profession, is really important, because as a performer, then you're really in touch with what the needs are for people and what it's like being out there in the real world, get through and trying to make it and trying to build your business, basically, build your enterprise of you as a performer, because that's essentially what we are. We're entrepreneurs, really. And
Yes.
so if kind of struggling with that element of things, that's kind of what I'm trying to help others with. I'm trying to maybe think a bit more broadly about things, rather than just think just about the music for that moment. Think of yourself as slightly a bigger picture, really, in the business sense.
Yeah, and you have to, right? It's so like you just said. I was just have a student, and I have her. I made her go out and start performing, and we had to sit down and go through contracts, and I made her read about them and understand them, go over with her parents. We do things like understanding your value, things like that, because she's like, but I just want to play the harp. And I'm like, oh, you're going to play the harp beautifully. It'll be wonderful. You'll have a great time. But you'll have an even better time when you don't have to worry about this stuff. So just learn it, become comfortable and friendly with it and understand it. And it'll go smoothly, and you'll show up, you'll play, do your thing and go home. And she was just like, okay, all right. I get it. I can do that.
It's nice to pass that on, and but also thinking about you as the performer, I think what's important is that throughout this time it's been so difficult not to be able to play and perform, hasn't it, to other people. But we are blessed with virtual audiences, and that's important to keep on playing, because if you don't, then slightly that becomes a little bit weird when you come back into it then, so keep on playing, even if it's to your cat or to your friend. Even if they're 2 meters away, it's fine. But the other thing is recording as well. We've been blessed, where we are here in Wales. Chris and I do record in the studio here from home, so we can do sessions from here as well. So that's ideal. But luckily last week, for the first time in a year, we got asked to do a recording session in Abbey Road to do with a documentary that's coming out about the Beatles soon. And so we thought, what, we do live hours and hours away from London, but we thought we'd just jump in the car, go and do the recording, have an adventure. And it was lovely to be with other musicians in the room again. It was so nice to have that interaction. But, it is starting to come back. So that is really encouraging.
It's like I was talking to a friend. I said, I feel like we're in this weird little stance where I feel like I was at a party, but there's no sweet treats, there's no cake, there's no sodas, there's no anything, and we're all just trying to figure out, like, what do we do? And then it's kind of like it's like little trickles of sprinkles that are coming around before the cake, and you're just like waiting for the cake and the candy and everything to come back so that you're like you can enjoy it. And I'm waiting. I'm so excited. I cannot wait until we can perform live again and just come together as musicians, because it's so much.
And I think when it'll be like it never went away. I think we'll forget all of these troubles. I think when it does come back to normal, we'll be on a high that we'll forget it all. And
I have to agree. Yeah,
thinking about the moment, and thinking about the future will be the focus then.
I have to agree. Yeah, I know. I'll be packing up my harp so quickly. I'll probably let's just go play somewhere. Let's get together. Come over. I know. I'm waiting for. I have a stack of of ensemble music and duet music. I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to play this. So hopefully this ends quicker than later. But some questions for you that I ask everyone that is on the Happy Musician vlog. And my first question to you is, what are you currently reading?
Well, I'm currently reading Michelle Obama's, Becoming, the sort of her account of how she got to where she is and where she. I mean, what an amazing lady. She's been fantastic in, I mean, I didn't really know that much about it, to be honest. I apologize, being from the UK, I guess I didn't really sort of think to, but I do enjoy reading people's stories and how they got there and what inspired them to get this. So I really find her to be an incredibly devoted, kind, considerate human being that really has a great perspective on things, So that's just one thing. I mean, I've got to say, I do find myself wrapped up so much in life constantly that I haven't got hours and hours to read all the time. But like, on the other hand, I so respect when people have carved out the time or get up earlier to be able to read things. But, it's important, isn't it? It's important to keep your brain active in that way, but also to keep widening your horizons, isn't it? That you're learning and absorbing from what you're learning on the page, isn't it? But yeah, I found that to be quite interesting recently.
It's funny. You're the second or third musician I've talked to who's reading her book, and it's been on my list. I have another 8 books ahead of hers. It's been on my list, but I'm gonna get to it. But yeah, the reading, you're so busy reading music. It's hard to find time to read
You
the read books. So although I love to read, but it's yeah, it's hard. So but it's a from what I understand, it's a very good book. And her husband's book, I hear, is just as amazing. But everyone says read her book first, then
next,
his book.
next on as a couple, I find them purely inspirational. So they just, I don't know, they ooze this kind of charm and character.
Don't
And
say that, yeah.
you know when somebody walks in a room and you just know you're in the presence of greatness, like it's that,
It's
and I love that feeling. I love it when somebody just comes in like that, and I don't know, and they're quite unassuming. They don't feel that of themselves, do they? They're very down to earth, which is really lovely
yeah.
to
I
see.
think that's what makes them so wonderful, is that they ooze that, but it's they don't suck the oxygen out of a room. If anything, they bring in about 20 times more oxygen, and everyone's just giddy and happy and just so, excited to be in their presence. So I think that's what makes them such magnets too. It's just, yeah, they're very real, honest people that just they just want the best for themselves and everybody else if they can do it. So how can you not love that? All right. My next, this is a very evil question, but I to ask any artist, but I asked it anyway because it always brings about very interesting answers. But what is your favorite piece to play?
That would be Tchaikovsky, Eugene Onegin. So you've probably heard me play it. Actually, I think
Yeah,
I played it in Philadelphia not so long ago for the university there, which it was lovely to be there, and that's where I met you.
yeah.
So I can remember now that I did play that. It's my absolute favorite piece of Fantasy on a Theme by Eugene Onegin. So I find it's a brilliant opener for a concert. It's a fantastic piece of music. It's just kind of the fit for a harpist. You start off, or a musician, you start off with the first page. It's not too bad, it sort of warms you up to the occasion. It's nice and assertive, but then when we get onto the second and third page, the fireworks start happening, and then by the time you're kind of halfway through, you're in it, you're on the
Yeah.
roller coaster, and it sort of grabs the audience. They find it very virtuosic. It doesn't feel too long, it doesn't feel too short, and it's just a great opening piece. I've always adored it. I've never really found another piece like it to open a concert with. I've always tried to find one, and Chris has heard it probably a million times now. He's like, right, are we starting with Tchaikovsky? Yes. No, but I do actually play the pieces. But I've got to say, just to state for the record, but like it's just when you find that piece that just works,
Yeah.
that's the challenge I got to kind of look at next. Is what are the pieces that we're going to try and open?
I need
But,
to open with something else.
yeah, and also one that makes the player and the performer comfortable, because you're in a freezing cold church, which I most of the time have been in over the years, where you're about to do a solo recital, and it's different when you're in your concert halls, and it's kind of temperature controlled and everything. But when you're freezing and you're in a not much, probably should wear a bit more, sort of in terms of a dress,
Right.
it's very cold. And when you start off that concert, it needs to be the right piece to warm you up. So I find that one to be my absolute favorite. If I had to choose a second one, I think I'd have to go for the whole like emotional aspect. Ladies in Lavender is that's my encore. I'm sorry to say, it's my encore. So, Ladies in Lavender is like the one that gets me. It's got a little bit of a story behind it, because like Nigel Hess composed it, obviously, for the film. Joshua Bell originally played it, absolute hero, who made it, and the original soundtrack. Obviously, I've been fortunate to be part of a couple of concerts with him being on the same bill and stuff, and I've met him a few times.
Oh wow.
So it was truly like massively inspiring to meet him, and see the person that I've even actually, for the prince's I forgot this, for the prince's 70th birthday a couple of years ago in Buckingham Palace, I was invited to play with Nigel Hess and a few other people, and Joshua Bell was doing obviously the Ladies in Lavender, but of course I was doing the accompanying part at that point then. So it was like, you know what, this is worth it. This is like, this is I was so
must
happy.
Have been giddy. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I originally met him on a a very sort of elite classical cruise I was doing with the English Chamber Orchestra in the Mediterranean somewhere. And lucky thing, Chris got to come with me, and he didn't have to do anything, but I had to play. He got to just sit back and enjoy the ride at that point and sip margaritas, I think. But yeah, so brilliant lineup, you know, where they were just sort of, you know, they had soloists on board and then the orchestra, and we did the Mozart flute and harp, and I did the Debussy, and I had to do some concerts on my own as well. And then Joshua did the Four Seasons in Ischia, which is amazing. Yeah. So yeah, so you know, Ladies in Lavender has had a bit of a story behind it, and it's always meant something. So what we did is, like, because obviously, you know, I've done a lot of recording over the years, and one of my albums, Girl with Golden Harp, that one was like probably the breakthrough album here in the UK for me, and luckily it got charted at the top of the charts and stuff, and Nigel and Chris, my husband, then did a bit of a kind of joint effort on arranging it for solo harp and strings, and I think that was probably the most enjoyable session I've done in terms of recording as a soloist with the orchestra. You know, it's just emotional, you know, and it's a beautiful theme. Anybody who hasn't heard it, go and listen to it. It's
yes, like, please listen. I've heard it. I do get a little bit of a tear as it goes on. It sounds like a piece that you can really just let go in. You can just really just, okay, hear it with everything that's here and here. It's gonna go right into my strings. Here it is. It just sounds like whoever's playing it, you have no choice but to play it that way. But yeah,
yeah, no. So that kind of is my top two.
Okay.
Pieces of all time.
You actually had two answers, like locked and loaded. Most of my guests can't. It takes them a while. I think I had my guests read a print up, and they were like, "Oh," I was like, "What are your favorite pieces?" They were just like, "Boom, boom. These are our favorite pieces." I was like, I did not expect that. Most of my guests are like, it's really hard to answer. So
it is hard to answer. You know, there are the ones that kind of obviously have meaning and are really personal to you. But like, I suppose if you've got to go with what happens in here, really, haven't you? What your heart says, and you know what you enjoy playing,
and also, yeah, well, you do, and that's the wonderful thing about musicians. Different for all of us. All right, now here's this one the questions get more intense as I go. So, what two people have been the most influential to you, and why? I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but
oh, really? What do you think's the answer?
I was gonna say your parents, or your husband, maybe, but
yeah. Of course, family is really important. Of course, like influence-wise, of course, you know, the drive and the commitment I've seen from my parents, and my husband is, Chris is, you know, he's inspired me quite a bit over the years, because really without him, I would not have been able to create the sound world we've created with the albums that we've made. You know, for people who wouldn't know, maybe, or haven't met me, he's kind of the other piece of the puzzle when it comes to when we record and do these albums, because he's a composer and arranger, and obviously a percussionist as well. He actually created the sound world that we've done with the albums over the years. So Journey, This Love, and it's this, well, I hope people agree, it's this sort of warm soundscape of strings and harp, but it written in a really in a really distinct way to show off the harp to the best of its ability, and also put so many hours into writing for the harp, and not just, you know, for me, but for other people as well. But he's written original pieces, of course, but, you know, he sat with me hour after hour, sort of, you know, getting to grips with how I like runs to go, and which layouts I enjoy, what rhythms I enjoy, you know, and of course when he challenges me and then he gives me something ridiculous in 13/8 or something, I'm like, can you please? No, we have a lot of fun with it. At the start, it was pretty seriously, like, the pressure was on, you know, and we were trying to find what this sound world was. But then eventually when we did, it just fell into place. You know, his sort of background as a percussionist as well, he's ethnic, he loves like world percussion, you know, and stuff. So you know, the different kind of vibes he's into, mixed then with what we do as a, you know, people expect to hear the harp in a certain way, but like, on the other hand, we've tried to present the harp in a different way, that the harp gets to sort of enjoy the virtuosity and the showmanship, what we can provide for it. And then there's this beautiful sound bed. So we had the English Chamber Orchestra, the Philharmonia, Linda Mozart players, people like that do the accompaniment for me on the albums, and we've enjoyed every bit of it. We did the Highgrove Suite as well,
Oh wow.
with ECO as well, but we had a different composer come in on that occasion, because it was a project to do with the Prince of Wales, who I used to work for as the Royal Harpist. But yeah, I mean, we've just had lots of experience together, and he really is, you know what I mean? I'm not just saying that because of him being my husband, but really as a business partner in a way, or a creative partner, we come together. It's like the singer and the producer, isn't it? It's
Right.
like,
Yeah. You just.
kind of can't really operate. I don't feel comfortable operating without him much. But then on the other hand, I do my own stuff, but I kind of need him to bring it together for me.
Right.
And we laugh and we cry sometimes, of course, but it's that kind of relationship, isn't it? That's what it is, and
That's what makes it perfect, right? You can be who you need to be whenever, at the time that you're together. You can be honest, you can be real, you can say yes, you can say no, and
yeah,
it all works. You guys are peanut butter and jelly, and it just all works
yeah.
very, very well. But you can work a lot.
Although he keeps telling me that I'm never as polite to him as I am to other composers.
Well, you can't be too,
like,
keep them on his toes, right? Like,
like, serious, for goodness sake, no, joking. So it's fun, and we used to joke at the beginning because, we really didn't get on at the start. At the very beginning, it was very difficult because we hadn't found the sound, and we hadn't done the first project, the Golden Harp. So that was when we had to kind of just fight a little bit to find where we were, and then we got there. The boxing gloves came out, but then we were okay again.
I think that's all, like many relationships. You got to have some rocky moments to appreciate, the smooth ones, and to really just say, you know what, we actually work really well together. It feels like it's fluffing.
We were good, once we'd heard it at the end and on the radio, we're like, you learn to trust each other as well. That's the other thing that as when you look at kind of working with other people, the trust is really important, so that you trust that you don't try and do what they do, and they don't try and do what you do, that you blend, so anyway, so that's kind of been one. But so on a personal level, I guess that's kind of where we are with that, but with inspirational figures. But I mean, obviously I've had like my teacher Ian Jones in the Royal College of Music. He was extremely a massive influence on me, because I actually entered the Royal College of Music on violin. I was a violinist, so I played piano, violin and harp for all my life. And I was actually going to be a violinist. I decided at 13 I was going to be a violinist because of my hero.
Well, go ahead. Okay.
Nigel Kennedy and Joshua Bell and Heifetz, people like this were my big inspirations when I was growing up. And I wanted to be a soloist. I wanted to be the violinist that was out there doing her stuff. And I got into the Royal College of Music, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, and it literally blew my mind, because I was in a state school in Wales, and it was a beautiful setting, and I had loads of support here, but I wasn't surrounded as such with kind of people who were doing the same thing as me, practicing for 2 hours a day, basically. Or actually that was just violin. And then I would do another hour on piano and another hour on as well. I'd be accompanying choirs and stuff as well. But anyway, so I got to the audition, did the audition, and then I had a place on the violin, and harp was my second instrument. But Yeyan actually started to give me some lessons there, and he's a Welsh harpist, award-winning. He obviously, you know his resume. He's done well. He's so well in the international competitions and stuff. Anyway, he was taught by Marisa Robles, of course. And anyway, so it was very inspirational to be around him, and there was something about him, the sort of the performing and the sort of the stage presence he has. And I love his attitude. He's so he's got a lovely personality, and so all of that packaged together. And he turned to me one day and he said, "Well, Claire, why don't you just do joint first?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not going to do joint first, because I haven't got enough hours in the day." I was doing 4 hours of violin a day, and I sort of was feeling I couldn't do another 4 on the harp again. So, because of course, with my mindset, it's like I either do it well or I don't do it at all. That's kind of how I how I think, as many musicians do. And so we got to the point where I went to the head of the strings, Mark Messenger, and he was lovely. He was so good about it. And I asked, could I swap from the violin to the harp? because everybody was asking me to do the harp as well. Everybody wanted me to play here, play there, do this chamber group. And I was like, really excited. And Yayan backed me all the way. He over the summer holidays, he did this crash course with me to try and like help me catch up with everything I'd missed, in that sort of time. And I can remember driving to his house in Wales for hours and then doing the big lesson and then driving back. And it was a big turnaround, but I was so excited. And 3 years later, I was appointed the official harpist of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. So
wow.
that I made that choice, because if I hadn't have, it would have been a different story again,
Right. Oh my God. 3 years? Wow. That's quite a quick turnaround.
Well, I played the harp since I was like, 10, but it was just that it wasn't put at the forefront, like
right.
as the violin was, so.
Right. So the focus changed. Wow.
Changed. Yes.
Wow. Well, he definitely
was very happy because it wasn't like this anymore.
right.
But yeah, the sort of position you're in with the violin. But yeah, so from there on in, I tried my best, my utmost to try and catch, which I did catch up then, relatively quickly. And Yayan was the big influence in helping me to make that transformation. And really, if he hadn't have said that, I'm really not sure would I have gone for I probably would never have turned that. So I owe him a lot for that, and I'm really thankful for that. So, but we keep in touch, and it's lovely. Some of my students go to him now after many years, and there's still, the circle continues, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, this is it. But yeah, so I'd say that. And then throwing in a very last one as an inspirational figure, I like to follow other people who do other things. I sort of, obviously I love music and I love the harp world, and I'm very inspired by a lot of people, but I sort of get more, I don't know, I get a little bit more grit out of watching other people, like athletes really, and different sort of individuals. It's interesting, I've been watching Andy Murray, the resurfacing documentary, and it was just sensational. It was fantastic to see how he trains, and that's really had a big influence on me, the way he trains, his body. I've actually adapted my regime to actually do pretty much, the types of things he's doing, but obviously not to the same massive degree as he's doing it, because I haven't got, obviously I'm a mum, and there's other things going on as well. I know he's a dad, but like, I think it's a different, slightly different situation. He's like world champion.
Yeah.
So when it comes to it, I try and like think like an athlete. So basically, I'm thinking about fueling my body in the morning. I'm thinking about what's going into my body before I started doing anything. I warm up, I do my Pilates, my yoga, my workouts before I start. I'm doing then my first session of practice, then I carry on, I do my stretching, I do my strength and conditioning with my, I've hidden them away now, but my ball, my resistance
right.
band. So I do a session with my health coach, Holly, 3 or 4 times a week. So we do that, to help my body to strengthen up, to be able to hold my core tightly, and to be able to sort of make sure I've got the right posture when I'm playing and everything. Because I feel, because I'm so fatigued and tired, my body slips a lot, and when your fatigue sets in, after years and years of doing it, you're not thinking about your core, you're not thinking about engaging your muscles. So you need a lot of strength. You do need a lot of strength. And we weren't necessarily trained to think that way when we were sort of going through the process of learning our instrument. I say we.
No, I think it's catching on, but most of us still are not trained that way. But yes, playing an instrument is a very athletic action. You're doing a lot, and you really do need to prep.
Yeah. And putting aside from it, we've got a complication that our harp is extremely heavy, and as talking as women now as well, and men in different situation, because I'm sure it's different physique, different
muscle mass,
But if I can talk about the ladies for a second, ladies lifting things into the car, lifting a big heavy harp, doing it in the correct way, and having done that since like the age of 15, I've done a lot of damage to my back over the years. So, and my discs aren't right. So so it's just one of those things I'm keen now to kind of make sure I re-educate the next generation, who I teach and also who I mentor, in that way, that every single bit of the puzzle needs to be right, doesn't it, for it to be a successful, happy musician in the end.
Yes. indeed I mean, it's true. I mean, you do. I talk to my students same way. Be careful the way that you're lifting. Be careful the way. And I mean, and I don't say we. I was holding summer workshops, and it was just the only thing that we were doing was practicing how to move the harp. Some have lever harps, some have, but lever harps are awkward and still heavy for a young person, and the parents too. I saw a dad pick the harp up, and I said, "You're going to kill yourself. Don't kill yourself with the harp." So I said, "You come to the workshop with your daughter, and we'll get this all straightened out."
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. We don't do it so much here in the UK. So I'm really pleased that you're doing that. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really, really good.
Yeah, and well, because I did it after I hurt my back. I hurt my back. I picked up my harp the wrong way. I was always really careful with it, but I was happened to be talking to someone, and I just was not paying attention to.
And
And
that's
I,
what happens, isn't it?
yep, and I pulled out. I did some pretty nice damage to my lower back, and I couldn't get my harp out of the car when I came home. And in fact, I ended up being out of commission for 3 weeks. So I was like, well, okay. I don't want my students to go through this, so let's have a chat. So but it's
Well,
definitely important to, yeah, we do need to think like athletes. Um, what was the one thing? Oh, okay. So this is a little kinder question. Um, what's the one thing you do to keep, I say happiness, but really, I think I really want to say, what is what are some things or actions that you do to keep a positive mindset? That's what I wanted to, that's how I prefer to.
yeah, yeah, positive mindset. So when it comes to it, I think it's all very much in the mood that you create for yourself, really, isn't it? When you get up in the morning, how you stack your day, basically. So I try and stack my day in my favor rather than stress's favor. And so I try and think, right, okay, do the things first of all that set you up well. So I do sort of my yoga, I do my meditation, maybe just, even if it's just a couple of minutes, just listening. I even listen to piano relaxing music on Spotify, whatever it is, and just try to calm my mind. So I'm really in that place where I'm a bit clearer, not so stressy. Because often things can set you off, when somebody writes to you and says, oh, this needs to be in by now, and yesterday or whatever. And those sort of things, they heighten me I'm quite sensitive like that, probably too sensitive, but I react quite easily. So I have to try and make sure I'm quite calm. And that means in turn, I'm more positive. The less tired I am, the more positive I am.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's obviously, so I try and keep on top of my sleep and make sure that I'm in the best place that I can be to make sure I, recover in time and everything. But positively listen to affirmations. Affirmations are really important. Even motivational quotes, keeping that on top of that, and have them dotted around your office or your room so that you can look at them when you need to. So that's really important. So I think that's probably, and I do end up kind of being quite a coach to my students as well. I sort of end up telling them, my own affirmations. So it's so I think that helps.
It does. It does. And it's funny. I do the same thing. I do my hardest things in the morning, but which sometimes is the yoga, but I enjoy that much more. It's not hard, but your willpower, you get tired near the end of the day. So your discipline, your willpower, everything starts to wane, and you're just like, so I tell my students, they're like, well, it's really hard to practice. I'm like, get up in the morning and practice before school. And the faces that I get are hilarious. But I did it because I wasn't consistently practicing. I'm like, I would get up really early, but I had the best practice. And I noticed that when I headed off to school, I was having really good days at school. I was awake, I was alert, my brain was ready for class. And, by the time we got to music class in school, I was like, all right, I was ready and raring to go. So it's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Big difference.
Oops. Oh, hold on. Ah, everything, my mic doesn't like me. It doesn't want to stay up. I could talk to you all day, Claire. You're so sweet and so informative, and you have you have such a history about you. You're so young, but you have this massive, wonderful, beautiful legacy that you have on your own, and then it's just beautifully complemented by your husband's legacy that you guys are creating. So, I mean, I could talk to either one of you. I'm sure I could for hours and days, but Unfortunately, I'm sure people in the podcast don't want to sit here for hours and days.
Probably
But but I want to thank you for being my guest. Lovely getting a glimpse, a brief glimpse into, what's going on now, what you're doing. To my viewers out there, I want to thank you for watching, and the links and information to the books she's reading, upcoming projects, they will all be on my website with the blog at thehappymusician.com. And hopefully the next time we talk, or in a very near future, it will be behind the same camera and not Zoom. So fingers
Oh,
crossed.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I wish you well with everything. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. You stay well. Tell Chris I said hello. But once again, thank you everyone for watching the Happy Musician Vlogcast, where happy musicians come to talk. And please subscribe at thehappymusician.com. Thank you, everyone.